Hey everybody, welcome back to another feedback session. Today we have a few things to look at. First, we'll start with this one from Mohammad. So this is a new one that I haven't seen before. Um, these are the references that you pulled up. So I think the first thing that stands out to me on this one is um, the shaping of the characters. I think your key light is working really well. I like the shadows that you're getting from the blinds over here. It all feels very natural the way that the key light's coming in. I think that the area that you can look at now is how in the shadow side you can shape the character, because you can see here, right, like on the character here, it's all very ambient lighting when it's not the key, and it makes the character look very flat, and it doesn't really, give any shaping to the character. So I think there's too much ambient light in your scene. You can kind of see here, like, the difference between this side of the bookshelf and this side of the bookshelf. There's not that much difference. You can't really read a form change very much between these two sides. And the same goes with, everything in this scene, this box, the light side and the shadow side of them. I think, taking down your ambient light and then selectively putting lights in to shape the character and let things fall into shadow. Like you can see here in your reference image here, the light's coming in, it's quite strong, but it falls off quite quickly. And it's bright over here and it's getting dim over here, and the sides of the furniture that are not facing the light, that are turned away from the light, are going darker. And I think that contrast will really help you in your image, because the idea of it, I think, is correct. I think it's just about massaging that shadow side now. I think the light on him is fine. I think she's getting some little bit of a strange shadow shape on her. You're hitting just this cheek area, so you might need to cheat your character light on her just to get a little bit more of a flattering light on the characters. Maybe have this real light hitting more of the side of the character, and then cheating it by adding another light and wrapping it around the character here, so you get a softer quality of light on the face. You're also getting some subsurface issues here just because there's such a bright light hitting directly on the side of her nose. So I think separating out those lights and having the environment light currently act as a rim on her, and then getting a softer light on her face would help a lot with the appeal of the character. But yeah, I mean, I like how you've set everything up. I think it's just now about taking down the ambient light and then making sure you're getting good shaping on the characters. Cool. This is from Marie on the Discord. I think this has gone through a few iterations. This is the latest one, which looks amazing. I think I really like how this turned out. I was looking between the old one and the new one, and I really like what you've done with the notes. I think it's much more focused. I threw a black and white filter on it just to look at value structure. I think it's a lot more focused now on the focal point, which is presumably this door. And I really like how these trees, sorry, not trees, this grass in the corner and over here vignettes. One thing that I was feeling was missing some of that cool influence and keeping this warm influence local to this area on the top, because I think on your new one right now, it's pretty uniformly warm across everything, like from bottom to top, where I feel like most of the warmth should be localized down here. um, in this area, and then kind of fall off as you go to the top, and then these little bubbles of light you can have giving off a more localized light, but it feels like it's a little bit too warm in general on the top of the image. So what I did just to try to see if it would help is I put your old image on top and I just erased out the top, right? So this is the top of your old image on top of your new image, and I feel like getting that cool influence on the top of the image, on the top of that tree, will really draw your eye towards this middle area in a really nice way, in my opinion. Oops. Yeah, so you want the viewer to look here at this door, or at this general area, and I think not only is there a vignette now with your value structure that you've set up so nicely, but there's a vignette with color temperature as well. So we're really pulled into this warm area, and you can just let these like little bubbles here give off a lower amount of light and more localized amount of light. But that's pretty much all I've got for this one. I think it looks amazing. You've done a great job on this with all of the notes. I looked through the past history of this, and I think it's working really well. You've come a long way. So yeah, to me, I think this feels a little bit more natural with how blue everything is outside of this environment, of this tree. You kind of want to feel that on the leaves, and then really feel it. Really feel it lets you really appreciate the warmth over here. Yeah, but great job. I think this is really, really, really cool. These are just small tweaks, so awesome. This is Theodora's new piece, inspired by House of Flying Daggers, which I love, and Blue-Eyed Samurai. So, looking at this, I was, well, first of all, I really like, the idea here, and I really like the composition and everything that you have. I think it really evokes this sort of reference that you're going for. I think one thing with the bamboo forests, or any of these tree forests, is that I'm gonna make this black and white real quick. I think the composition of these shots really depend on the verticality of the image, how graphic it is. It's really apparent when you look in black and white, right? Like, it's so striking, the ups and downs of the shapes that these trees make, especially here. It's like it's silhouetted against the fog, and even here where it's not quite so graphic, it's more busy, but you're really feeling that movement to the frame. And here they're kind of standing up the way she's standing up, top to bottom. I think the major thing with yours, which I think your color and your lighting is working quite well for this situation, but I think the major thing with yours is that the shadows are so busy on the ground, and it's not reinforcing this sort of vertical structure, right? I think a lot of these where you do see shadows, like this one, it is off to the side a little bit, but it's still kind of reinforcing these shapes. And the other ones, I think, because of this very reason, where it can get really busy and not easy to read. You can see all these are filmed in super cloud cover, it looks like. Really ambient lighting, where this one's almost like just local color, right? There's no shaping. There's top-down shaping on the character, but there's not really much shaping to the environment at all. This one's backlit, which is cool, but we're also not getting quite as compressed like a long lens image as you have, or as there is in these shots. So it's clearing up the composition just a little bit to focus on her, and she's really nicely silhouetted against the background fog. Um, and here, we do have pretty deep focus here, but she's fairly clear with these trees because we don't have like crazy shadow shapes on the ground. I think the fact that this is very ambient lighting is working to the simplicity of this image, of a lot of these images. And this one's very busy, but I think this is not necessarily a character moment. It is in the way that you're tracking this character walking, I think, across the screen. But I think the success of this shot is really because of how graphic and striking these trees are, and to show the character moving through the environment. So, all that to say, I think the setup is working in terms of where everything is placed, and I love the God rays that you have. I think maybe you can light it more so you get these shadows and these shapes that are reinforcing the structure of the image. So if your sun, say, was back here, you might get a more interesting, not interesting, you might get maybe a less interesting shadow shapes, which might benefit your image and kind of draw the eye to the character, as well as unify the composition. The other thing with this, I think, is that I think your shadows are getting maybe too dark for what we have here, when compared to what these trees are doing, right? So the trees look like, they're getting a lot of ambient light. There's not much shaping on the trees, which I think maybe you're getting from this reference here, but in this instance, we're not getting a strong sunlight. We're getting cloud cover, which is why I think we're getting almost local color here. Here, I think you would see this, the light sort of drop off as it turns away from the light, and I think you would get a little bit more shaping on these trees here. So I think getting some more shaping on the trees, as well as backing off on how dark these shadows become, will really help kind of simplify the image. I did a quick levels adjustment. I think there's not really any way to do this in Photoshop, I think, because these are so dark, but I think that will kind of help simplify it as well. But yeah, I think maybe try it out and think about how you want your lighting to reinforce the composition. I think it's really important on these scenes, otherwise they can get too crazy, like just the nature of being in a forest and having all this crazy dappled lighting. It makes it difficult to, it's pretty, but it makes it difficult to focus the eye, especially if you're on a shot that in a movie is going to be, I don't know, 48 frames, or maybe a few seconds. We really want the audience to take in the image graphically. And the other thing, I was debating about this. I think the saturation is really quite high on both the character and the environment, which I suppose it's just a taste thing. I think for me, I would take down the saturation on one of them, so it's not so. Some people say it vibrates between, the really strong color of this character, and then the really strong saturated color of the ground. Just to create a little bit more harmony between them. But I don't think that's necessary. I think it's more of a taste thing. This, I think, to me, feels still quite colorful, but a little bit more, I don't want to say realistic, but true to real life materials, where it's not quite so vibrant as you have. But yeah, all things to think about. I think you can go a few different ways with this image. Either moving the light back here and kind of simplifying those shadow shapes, or just softening out this light quite a bit, so that you get some soft dappling, but not quite so harsh of shadows. Um, and just, I think what could benefit you a lot in this scene as well is, um, I think it's right now it's difficult to. There's a lot of shadows and stuff going on, but not necessarily like the tree shadows. So I'm not sure. I think you maybe have like a gobo on the whatever light is happening over here, but it doesn't feel like the trees are really connected to what the light is doing. So maybe taking a look at that and making sure everything feels unified. But yeah, great job. This is really cool as is. I think there's just some stuff you can do to sort of unify the composition and simplify things. So you had another one here. These are screenshots, so let's look at this. So yeah, this is really cool. I think everything you're doing here is right. I like how you're staging this. You know, staging the monster against the sky, and the scale is working really well, I think, especially with all these lanterns down here. Um, and I feel like the feel really feels like those Jurassic Park um, sequences. I think there's a couple things here that I wanted to take a look at. Um, I think you're playing in a value range that's very narrow. So let's see if we take a look at the histogram here. So this is where your image lies, right? And you have all these other values down here, and I understand, like you're trying to make it look dark, but I went to a talk by a DP, and he was saying, the job for dark scenes is not for it to be dark, it's for it to feel dark, right? Like you still need to light it. Not that you haven't lit it, but just talking in general, for dark scenes, you still need to light it, and it's not easier than lighting a lit scene. It's maybe harder because you want everything to read, but also feel like get the perception that it's nighttime. So I think what you can do here to sort of make this punchier is really up the contrast. Sorry about that. Got a phone call. So what I was saying was I played with the levels a little bit. You can see the histogram here. What difference it made there. You're still playing in these dark values, but I think there's a lot of room for you here to come up in contrast with your image. It's getting really crunchy here because there's not enough information to work in the PNGs, or whatever I pulled from this MP4. It's quite compressed, but I think on your side you can definitely come up in brightness on the sky and then crunch these dark values down more, so you're really getting this nice like graphic read of the character, and it still feels like night. You can really feel those lanterns more, and all this stuff rolls into shadow in the foreground. And then with the lightning hits, right, I think here it is right now, which is really cool. I think I love how you can read the forms only when the lightning hits. I think that's really effective. I think one thing with the material properties of this is that he does feel quite dry, but it is raining. So I wonder if upping the spec on their skin will help with that. Kind of get that nice shiny, kind of the way these teeth are actually. But the T-Rex in Jurassic Park is quite wet, and it creates a nice shine, and you're able to shape the form with specularity, which I think might be cool in this. But yeah, same thing with this. I think you could, really come up on the lightning. It could blow out. I think lightning would blow out any camera really. Um, so here I've just done a levels adjustment and increased the contrast. Um, I think you could probably even go hotter than this on the character and really like push it so it feels really graphic when the both when the character is silhouetted against the background, but also when the light hits the character. Um, but yeah, I think this is all like exposure adjustments and contrast adjustments, but the lights that you have and everything is there. I think it's just about strengthening the image and the read of the image, because taking a look at your clip again, um, it's just quite dark overall. I think you know people complain sometimes about the stuff in modern cinematography with say Game of Thrones or stuff like that, where it's just dark, like you just can't see anything. And I think um, getting a more graphic read like this will not only help strengthen it um, as an image, but also for the story, because you can see more clearly what's happening. um, but yeah, great job. This is again, this is all exposure and contrast adjustments, but everything you've got here is working, I think. It's just a matter of tweaking those levels. But awesome. Great job, everybody.